regions of the world. So the rewards are...
Oh, it actually worked. So as you can probably guess, we hit 30,000 subs. So I want to say a huge shout out and thank you for all the new subscribers and for everyone joining and for all the new people joining with this video. Welcome to the Well Pod. I appreciate you very much. And onward to 100,000 subscribers. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get into the new news and Raid Shadow Legends, which has to do with patch 114. So here what I have is, this is the content creator chat that we all talk in secret and give our feedback and whatnot. Now we're allowed to share this right now. He has said we can. And here's the part of the changes which in 114 they're going to be making. The main champion roster, meaning your normal, you know how you have 100 slots, is going to be expanded by 100 slots. So it's going to be doubled. This is a huge change. It's going to be much easier to move characters in and out of the vault with having that extra room. I very much appreciate any additional storage we go. They go into a little bit more detail here where they say there's certain technical difficulties which don't allow their expanding by 500 to 1,000 or more slots at once. Champions often left with equip artifacts and accessories with a certain level of upgrades, which in turn creates additional data on the server and requires the place to store it. At the moment, we're afraid it can overload the server, cause lag issues. Devs are searching for ways to optimize the feature or get more possible slots in the future. So, really, it comes down to whether or not you believe this. I do actually believe this. Reason being, it seems very consistent with all the things that I've heard from anyone who works at Plarium, anyone who's been like willing to talk to me, willing to contact me, and willing to like be honest with me, from what I can tell. All of this seems very consistent, where they have like an infrastructure issue with their game, where I don't know if it's they build it off the framework of other games, if you know, there's an issue with the engine they use. I don't know. I'm not a programmer. I won't pretend to be one. But what I will tell you guys is that the language they've used and the rhetoric and the feeling I've gotten from like the creative directors I've talked to, as well as all the YouTube coordinators, etc. And this guy in particular, the Diamond, he is a straight shooter. I have never seen him say anything to me in particular that I questioned. Like everything he said pretty much seemed legitimate. He's whenever they had faults that I came to them saying, hey, there's issue with this in the game, instead of like kind of going around and say, well, there's this issue in the game. You know, he just said, yeah, you know, I understand what you're saying. Okay, you know, he actually accepts it, which for me is a big part of communication. And so I do actually believe this, but it doesn't really matter too much, because there's some more stuff coming into the game, and we're all going to be happy about the 100 slots. So let's move on to the next moving on here. Which is that these champions will be rebalanced. Lord's Chamfer, Mashal, the War Chief, Mordu Macab, Bricktoff, Vergus, Oathbound, Duchess Lilitu. And then I make a joke down here, you can see, where I asked them, you know, who's a huge fan of this game here, because, or of my channel, because all these characters, like if you look Lord Chamford, I have 4 of these guys. Marshall Mathers, I have 2 of. Macab, I have 4 of. Ricktoff, I have 4 of. These are bad legendaries. These needed some rebalancing here. And what we actually have, and Duchess is on this list too, which you'll notice, and Oathbound and Vergus, which are 2 epics that really don't do very well currently. But if you look at the changes right here, check this out. So here we have the changes, okay? Let's scroll in here. Lord Chamford. So it's being moved to, he has a 45% chance on basic to place decreased defense for 2 turns. That's way better than the basic he had, okay? And then his second move attacks all enemies, decreases accuracy for 2 turns with a 100% chance, and places decreased attack for 2 turns with a 100% chance, okay? So if you look at it before, 50% for 2 turns with a 100% chance. It's the same. Places decreased accuracy, 25%, 2 turns with a 100% chance. It's the same, okay? So these are all the same. Same deal if you go looking on the third one. These are all the same. The only difference is the basic attack. And if you look at the third move here, at the start of the turn, it creates a shield equal to 20% of his HP for 2 turns. If the shield is destroyed, then it places that decreased speed on them. So it doubles the shield that he gets every turn, and he now places a decreased defense for basic. That's nice. I don't know if this is really going to make him I don't know if this is going to make him like a top tier legendary, but it will make him usable for people that pull him and want to be able to use him to help like clear dungeons earlier on. Like if you have him, he's your only legendary, you can use him as like an aura lead now, and then also have decreased defense for like dragon or something like that. I could see that being nice. Now here we go on to Marshall Mathers, and this is the one that really matters in my personal opinion, because his basic attack just heals him 30%, but now it also attacks enemies with the leech debuff. So if you have AoE Leech, let's say Blood Twin comes to mind here. If you put AoE Leech on somebody, his basic attack now applies to everybody with leech. I think that is kind of an interesting mechanic. It also makes me wonder if someone has leech on them and you target them, like the clan boss, for instance, does he attack that person twice? That could be an interesting test here. Now, his second move, which is almost useless, now goes from increased speed and the crit chance on himself and ally to all allies get the speed chance, and all allies get increased critical damage for 2 turns with 100% chance. This is going to make him actually usable. Increased damage is right now only on Whirlum. So he's going to be one of the only characters that's going to have that. That is absolutely exciting, okay? And then, now if you look at the other move here, this is where it gets confusing. He doesn't have 4 moves. So I'm not sure if he's getting just an additional move like this here, because this placed an ally. So okay, if we look at him here, let me pull him up, okay, so we can take a look at him here. I'll launch the game, I'll show you. If you look at this here, this is kind of confusing because he only has 3 moves. So I think they're adding this one in, and then this one here, maybe it's getting changed, or maybe this is the final rendition and they didn't mean to add this one. That might be what's going on here. Let me pull up this real quick. Let's take a look at Marshall Mathers, because there's something going on there that's not quite correct. So yeah, you see he only has 3 moves, okay? So I think what's happening is Tornado here must be this one, because this, or maybe this is the Ascended variant, okay, or something here. Because if you look at it, it does the speed, it does the increased crit damage, and now it places fear, true fear, because that's fear 2, which means true fear, for 2 turns with 100% chance. That is disgusting, my friends. Places all enemies leech for 2 turns. So he gets an extra turn on top of placing fear. Wow. That's very good. So he loses the crit chance, but this character might actually be good now. Let's see what it is now. Steals all buffs from an enemy with 80% chance, then attacks the enemy 1 time. Deals 50% more damage against targets without buff. Places an heal reduction. Places 100% chance for 2 turns on self, a continuous heal for 3 turns. I see. So his third move, he gets a continuous heal, and then he steals all buffs and attacks the person. That is very, very, very good. He does the stealing and attacking first, so he'll get the damage off before he has a chance to freeze himself in arena with the continuous heal from Torment, if I'm reading this correctly. This is a huge buff for this character. That's actually like a massive buff. I wonder if they're going to change his ratios, because I've looked in the game data and his attack damage ratios are disgusting. Actually, I didn't look in the game data. Murder Inc. told me about this here. I have the game data, but I don't really poke around in it. If you look at the attack here is a really, really good ratio. So I wonder if they leave the attack damage ratio and then also leave the fear and stuff. This could be interesting. He has a high base speed too. So getting the fear off with 100% chance, he might actually end up being good. So let's move on here. Let's go talk about War Chief. So attacks an enemy, places provoke, steals 2 random buffs. Now the cooldown is 4 turns. Okay. And it's from 5 turns. So they just reduce the cooldown. Got it. Okay. Attacks an enemy. Let's see. They reduce the cooldown again. So all they really did was reduce the cooldown here, and then reflect damage is now 15% instead of the 10%, which is interesting. Okay. So they have not a huge chance there. Now more than Macab, and if you look here, I want to show you guys. The reason I'm so interested in these changes is because if you go in this champion vault and we organize it here, like you can see, if I do it by faction, I think is the way I got it. You can see the Richtoff, you can see the champ forts. Like I have a lot of dupes in here. So this could actually be quite a good change for me depending on Macab and Richtoff coming. So now attacks all enemies, places block debuffs, with a 90% chance. Okay, so let's look at Macab here and let's see the change there. So if we go Demon Spawn, this one here, it's 50%, now it's a 90% chance. If the target has block heal, block buffs is unresistible. Oh, I see. So if it lands the healing reduction, then you can't resist it. Okay, that's all right. That's pretty good for arena, unresistible. I'm not sure how we're gonna get the healing reduction. Maybe you pair that with Marshall Mathers, Mr. Mashald. Okay, so each hit has a 20% chance. Wow, that is a huge buff. Double the chance to activate the hidden skill, because his hidden skill is very good. And then each hit has a 20% chance to activate hidden skill. Yeah, we already knew that. And each hit taken has 20% chance. Okay, that's the ascension difference. Here's what this is. 20% chance to boost the turn meter by 25%. Okay, so that's the same there, but you have the double chance to activate that. So that's actually probably pretty good. I wonder if putting more than one cab in arena might be a little better now. Didn't change the third move. All right, now we're going to Richtof. So that's a lot better from a cab. I don't know if that's enough to make him like disgusting. We'll have to see. Now here's another interesting part. We're going into Richtof. Attacks all enemies. Applies target decrease max HP. That's now 30% instead of 10%. That doesn't really change anything. Max HP decrease doesn't really matter. Okay, so now he attacks one enemy 3 times, applies 5% poison to all enemy for 2 turns with a 100% chance. So it's now an AoE poison. Wait a minute. With a 100% chance? This guy just became a Zavia god. Wait a minute. So he's Spirit, and he applies AoE poison. You know what that means, right? That means in paired with Zavia in Fire Knight, when I do Fire Knight, what I can do now is I can do a team like this one, right? So you put in Bad Owl for poisons, and then you're going to put in a Richtof here too. So it's Bad Owl poisons, Richtof poisons, Tomb Lord does the decreased defense down, she kills with the AoE. Next turn, he poisons, attack, poison. You see what I mean? These Richtof the Bodes might actually have a use now. And then the third move attacks one enemy, it multiplies 1 random buff is what it used to do to all enemies, but now it deals 20% more critical damage for each poison on the target, max 100% damage. Interesting. So now he just kind of snipes more additional damage for one person. 100% additional damage cap. That's going to depend upon the ratio. We'll have to see. We'll have to add in lots of crit damage gear and see exactly how strong that is, because that could be good. Or it could just not be that great. I think this poisoning all enemies, though, here, this is a nice change. It's 2-turn poison also, which is big for Zavia. This is basically a Bad Owl poison, all enemies. I like that. Plus, it hits one guy 3 times. So this is really good for Fire Knight. That's a good Fire Knight change. So moving on to Vergus here. I'm going to skip the epics, actually. I don't really care about these, to be honest. Moving on to Duchess, last one here, which is all allies take 25% less damage from AoE attacks. That's what it used to be. But now, if an ally is under invisible buff, reduces damage taken from AoEs by 40% is now completely removed. So they do not take less damage if they're under invisible, but they still do take the less AoE damage. So I think that's a good change too. Duchess was definitely overpowered. It's in every arena team if you ever. This is a good, healthy change. So all in all, these changes were good, mostly for me, Kappa, because Champ 4 change is nice for noobs, for people that pulled Champ 4 early. That's really the only thing that matters there. Marshall Mathers is actually like probably the biggest change here. This is a disgusting change. Adding fear on everybody. I might put him in instead of my Trunda, to be honest, and replace my HP burn with just that. And being able to steal buffs from an enemy is a pretty big deal. If he had steal buffs against all enemies, that would be hilarious. But I have steal buffs on Torment and on Marshall. We're going to have to see. This guy might actually be really, really, really good. So I'm kind of excited by that. All in all, the changes to the characters, I'm on board with. I like these character changes. Okay, not bad, not bad. So let's move on to the other news we have in the game. Let's go ahead, and I want to show you here, which is there is a new, the new daily pack, which I want to show you guys. Get a new daily login every day you log in. It's $3, gives you 5 shards. There's one here, one here, one here, one here, one here. Is it worth it? Yes. $3 is worth 5 shards. I will purchase the 5 shards for $3. This is mostly worth it if you are a newer player and you just need a few decent pulls right off the bat, okay? Not too bad. So I would buy that. These other packs, these aren't really a big deal. Maybe the Ultramix pack if you really want it. Other than that, these ones, not such a fantastic deal. Now, moving on to events and tournaments real quick before we wrap this up. There is the Dungeon Divers event for Jingle Hunter, Champion Trainings for Corpse Collector, and of course we have Stu Deucer for the Artifact Enhancement event. Also, they gave us out some new rewards here. We got some Ancient Shards, some Brews, and some Energy for the 1 year. And I would like to say, even though, we've had our differences and everything, huge shout out to Raid for 1 year. Congratulations. You guys have made a game which has built a career for me, as well as was very enjoyable to play for a while. And I very much appreciate that. So congratulations on 1 year. I would like to say, good job, guys. You have put out a very successful game, and, cheers. I hope that the future is looking good for us. And thank you everyone for 30,000 subs. I really appreciate you. And I hope to see you guys on new additional content. Love y'all and have a great day.